there's times when I see that there's a great summer, a 5-part series, and I think my kids need to watch it, but for some reason, sometimes I don't know. I don't feel like I don't want to see it again because it was so unsettling, but I think we need to. But to revisit it is very hurtful, and it brings back awful memories of that day.
Certainly for those of us who were here, it was a very traumatic and shocking event, and it had a huge impact on the lives of so many thousands of people. The silver lining, of course, was it united America around the need for us to come together to protect ourselves, our people, our city, and it made us. I think it brought us closer together. In contrast to the pandemic and the concerns about vaccination and all the political ramifications we go through today, where the crisis we're facing today seems more divisive than anything else.
And the juxtaposition of recent developments in foreign lands on the 20th anniversary it's a little bit, it's certainly not serendipitous, but it's not thinking about Afghanistan now, thinking about terrorist havens once again. It's back in the forefront, and we certainly don't want to go through anything like that again to bring the country together. But in 20 years, we've just steadily moved apart. So I don't know what the answer is in terms of that. Do you?
And in New York City, we actually, terrorism, anti-terrorism efforts, prevention, et cetera, has been front of mind since 9/11. It's never gone away. It changed the whole way we operate. Within a week after the attack, we had Scotland Yard was over here telling us how the United Kingdom, London, was dealing with the terrorism issue, and they helped us. There were some models for how we could change how we do business. So, for example, our major global corporations established a relationship with the police department, with federal authorities, with Homeland Security, where we now have total communication, reporting, sharing of information for the last 19 and a half years. And that's made a real difference in the security. The danger to New York after 9/11 was always a second attack. And for several months, we thought maybe we'll no longer be the world's financial capital. That the regulators were promulgating temporary regs that suggested financial institutions would have to move a nuclear distance away from Lower Manhattan. But fortunately, there were, with the help of nations around the world, really, and the experience, particularly of Scotland Yard in London, we were able to regroup, to plan how we would prevent other attacks, and we've been, our economy has been thriving ever since.
Even you remember, Kevin, there was actually an incident on one of the September 11th anniversaries, and that is a date that we remember, and it's a date that terrorists around the world remember too. And we have another one tomorrow. And for years, I think we finally were at a point where we weren't quite as worried about driving into the Lincoln Tunnel or attending a sporting event. And now tomorrow, September 11th, we're broadcasting out of Times Square. We're once again, I think, reminded that you can't take it for granted that we're always going to be insulated or safe from something like this. Back in the forefront of all of our minds, I think.
Absolutely. It is, at least for those of us who lived through it, as you mentioned earlier, for those who are under 20 or were not around for that event, it almost probably seems surreal. But for those of us who were here, obviously, I think I was the last car to drive out of Lower Manhattan after close to 6 o'clock when the military had taken over Lower Manhattan, and there were 3 inches of white dust on the ground. For those of us who were here, we will certainly never forget.
All right.